What's happening, world? Be Marsh Boxing, and we back at it. Back at another controversial decisions. I told you I'm gonna be on my Dean and get on my gorilla grind and pump out these controversial decision fights. You know what I mean? I checked my data from last year and I seen I only did two of them. You know, that's well below average. So I'm back at it, man. Hitting you off with another classic. James Toney versus Reggie Johnson. James Toney at this particular time, this is 1991. This is 6 weeks after he defeats Michael Nunn via 11th round stoppage in Davenport, Iowa. Okay. Michael Nunn was the IBF champion at 160 pounds, and he lost to the man, James Toney, on a come behind win for James Toney. You know what I mean? So, 6 weeks after he defeats a pound for pounder in Michael Nunn, James Toney has now put the boxing world on notice. And here he is, facing none other than the man, Reggie Johnson, Reggie Sweet Hands Johnson, or Reggie Sweet Johnson from Houston, Texas, from the Fifth Ward. Same place as the Ghetto Boys, and same place or neighborhood as George Foreman, okay? So this particular fight, like I said, I believe this is actually Reggie Johnson's first attempt at a world title. He has one loss early in his career, but he worked himself up in the rankings, the WBA and the WBC and IBF rankings. He's either number one or number two in all three of them sanctioning bodies, okay? So here he is. Reggie Johnson is attempting to get the IBF title off of James Toney's hands. Let's get into it. James Toney is a good fighter, you know what I mean? But we'll get into what I think about his skill set at this particular time as opposed to as he progressed in his career, you know what I mean? But in the first round, both guys are throwing shots with bad intentions, in particular, the man, James Toney. And James Toney's leaving himself open, you know what I mean, for the body shots, because he was out there just trying to take this man's head off, you know what I mean? And Reggie Johnson was a composed fighter all throughout the fight, all throughout the duration of this fight. He was a composed fighter, kept his poise, and boxed, you know what I mean? The southpaw versus the orthodox fighter, you know what I mean? He withstood James Toney's unleashing of them vicious right hands, you know what I mean? James Toney, as you can see, he got a Star of David logo on his on his trunks, you know what I mean? Reminds me of Benny Briscoe. I don't think James Toney was of Judaism faith, but I think James Toney was wearing that patch of that Star of David patch on his trunks because of his manager Jackie Kellen. I think she was a Jew. You know what I'm saying? So, and they were close friends. You know what I mean? More than just a business relationship as far as manager and client. You know what I mean? But yeah, Tony's throwing shots with bad intentions, but Reggie's keeping his composure. Reggie's catching a lot of those shots on his gloves. You know what I mean? Countering, as you can see right there, with the right hook and pivoting. You know what I mean? Using fabulous foot movement. James, what's his name? A lot of people talk about James Toney when it comes to great middleweight guys with defense, and not taking nothing away from his defense, but Reggie Johnson's defense was to me one of his best attributes. You know what I mean? Reggie Johnson's doubling up his right hook and straight left. You know what I mean? That's the first round I gave this particular round that you see right here on the film study. I gave it to the man Reggie Johnson. You know what I'm saying? Round two, Reggie starts off with a straight left to the stomach, then throws then a looping left hook, left sweeping hook that puts James Toney on the back seat of his pockets. It might happen sooner than later. Just pay attention to the film as I narrate this controversial decisions. You know what I mean? As a matter of fact, go ahead and check out my playlist right here on YouTube. I have over 25 controversial decision fights that I've covered and broken down. There we go. The sweeping left hook that drops and hurts the man's James Toney. James Toney's hurt. He's keeping a poker face, you know what I mean? He gets up But Reggie Johnson's going to commence to land numerous punches with Tony, especially on the ropes. You know what I mean? Kind of straight lefts by Reggie, and Reggie has Tony missing um, with his straight right hands. You know what I mean? At the point in time, as you can see, he's getting caught. Now he wants to throw punches. He's missing. What's his name? Is a smart fighter, Reggie Johnson, and he's clinching when he has to look at them straight left hands. A right hook again, which was to me the best punches of the man Reggie Johnson were his right hook and his straight left hand being the southpaw. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, so that's a 10-8 round right here for the man Reggie Johnson. You know what I mean? I gave Reggie Johnson round one, and he wins round two, 10-8. You know what I'm saying? Round three, Reggie's making Tony miss a lot of shots. He's landing his left hand, excuse me, throwing the body shots straight left and evasive moves on the ropes. You know what I mean? One of Reggie Johnson, another thing that I liked about Reggie Johnson's skill set was how he pirouettes and does basically a pivot when he has an opponent when his backs are on the ropes. You know how many times I've seen him do this move, his back on the ropes. A guy's trying to go in for the kill, thinking he's got Reggie Johnson cornered. Reggie Johnson with his evasive defense, with his head movement or pivoting with his feet, he can pirouette up out of the corner, and before you know it, within a half second, the opponent's back is on the corner, and Reggie Johnson goes to work. It's a thing of beauty. You know what I mean? He can do it basically without even having to grab your hips like B Hop or Pernell Whitaker and turn you over. You know what I mean? He just does it with the momentum of the punch that the opponent is throwing. And but by the time the guy misses, because it all starts off with the man Reggie Johnson's superb defense. You know what I mean? He gonna make an opponent miss before you know it. That guy's momentum will have him turning, and Reggie Johnson now has the edge because he's gonna be on top of the opponent while the opponent has his back on the ropes. You know what I mean? And that's something Reggie Johnson's done numerous times in this fight, in fights versus guys like what's that guy? What's the Irish guy? Steve Collins. You know what I mean? Yeah, so he's very evasive on the ropes, and there goes the left hook right there. Yeah, James Toney on the backseat of his pockets, you know what I mean? And like I said, this is his first title defense after beating Michael second to none. All right. Round four is a close round. Could have gone either way in my opinion. James Toney throwing punches and exchanges on the ropes. Um, Reggie Johnson is gliding out of trouble, you know what I mean, using his footwork and his lateral movement. James Toney is not necessarily cutting off the ring well versus the well versus Southpaw, you know what I mean, and Reggie Johnson. You know what I'm saying? So it's a close round, could have gone either way. I believe I gave that round to Reggie Johnson. Okay. Round five, James Toney lands flush right hands. You know what I mean? That backed the man Reggie Johnson up on the ropes. Tony misses a lot of punches in that particular round. He misses damn near 10 punches because Reggie Johnson's head movement on the ropes was clean. You know what I mean? Very good upper body and head movement. Reggie Johnson's landing flush left hands. And one of them in particular stops James Toney in his tracks. But James Toney is still applying pressure, as you can see right here. You know what I mean? And as you see in the film study, this is round three. Okay, but we in round six. Round six, a big right hand by James Toney staggers Reggie Johnson into the ropes, but he bounces off the ropes, kind of like wrestling. You know what I mean? Like kind of like Shawn Michaels running and off the ropes and bouncing off the ropes. So I think in particular that the ropes help the man not only stay up, but basically give him momentum not to be caught on the ropes. You know what I mean? Because he bounced off the ropes like it was wrestling. You know what I mean? Just Tony not landed that many punches, but he is the aggressive fighter. He is using effective aggression. You know what I mean? And in particular, Reggie Johnson's not particularly active in that round. Although he does land a few straight lefts here and there, but not enough to win the round. I gave it to James Toney. In round seven, James Toney's applying pressure. He's stalking Reggie Johnson, you know what I mean, who's on his back foot and using lateral movement. Flush right hands on Reggie Johnson's chin. Excuse me, a flush right hands on Reggie Johnson's chin staggers Sweet Reggie Johnson, but it doesn't hit. But he doesn't hit the canvas. You know what I mean? But Reggie Johnson still got his hands in his pockets, not really letting his hands go earlier like he was in the first fight. You know what I mean? And that's one thing that Reggie Johnson, might have issues with sometimes. Not letting his hands go, especially when he's above ahead on points. He did that in fights. Well, when he fought Roy Jones, that was at a whole different weight class, and he just was outmatched. You know what I mean? I wasn't mad at that fight one bit. He was a unified champion. But in fights versus guys like, what's that guy? Who's the guy he lost to? John David Jackson. You know what I mean? I thought he was a much better fighter than John David Jackson. Or even, what's his name? Steve Collins, you know what I mean? He was ahead on points, but he made the fight a little closer. Just like in this fight, James Toney is creeping on a come up, you know what I'm saying? Creeping on a come up, and he's coming back winning rounds. Round 8, James Toney's on the front foot, landing straight right hands, and he catches Reggie Johnson on the ropes. You know what I mean? But Reggie Johnson does his classic pirouette. You know what I'm saying? Sweet move, the classic pirouette, pivoting up out the corner to the point that he embarrassed James Toney. Then he patted him on his ass. You know what I'm saying? He patted his behind like, you a little boy. I'm sure that really burnt the man James Toney. James Toney ain't like that. I sure as hell wouldn't like that. You know what I'm saying? But Reggie Johnson feeling good. He got his swag right, you know what I mean? And he lands a beautiful four punch combination. That was the best combination to me throughout the whole fight. It was in round 8, and it was a jab to the stomach, um, a jab to the stomach, a left hook to the head, and then a classic 1-2 to the stomach. You know what I mean? You check it. A jab to the stomach, then the left hand to the head, then a straight left hand and a right hook, and another jab to the stomach. 1-2. Beautiful combination by James Toney. You know what I mean? And he caps it off with the uppercut, not in particularly in sequence of that combination, but after he had caught the man James Toney with that beautiful four punch combo. James Toney comes forward. The man Reggie Johnson caps it off with a beautiful uppercut. You know what I mean? Tony's still coming forward, still applying pressure. You know what I mean? Ain't nothing changed but the weather for James Toney. He has to win by all means. You know what I mean? And James Toney actually catches Reggie Johnson with a flush right hand, although I gave that particular round to Reggie Johnson. Round 9, Reggie standing his ground, you know what I mean, landing some clean straight left hands off the counter. Does his classic move, off the ropes, the pirouette, and is winning in exchanges, you know what I mean, and moving with the lateral movement, in that particular round, he's keeping James Toney having to move his feet as well, you know what I mean? I particularly think James Toney defense got better when he went to like super middleweight and even cruiserweight. You know what I mean? Where he wasn't so much lateral movement or, the guy stood his ground, but his upper body movement, his shoulder roll. In this particular fight right here, you don't see him using the shoulder roll like you do see him in later fights in his career. You know what I mean? Like when he fought guys like Iran Barkley at 168 pounds, just standing in the pocket and just basically evading shots from close distance without using his feet is a thing of beauty. You know what I mean? Or even what he did versus Vasily Girov. You know what I'm saying? Close position and he can counterpunch you. You know what I'm saying? With the short pull counter rights, left hooks to the stomach. You know what I mean? James Toney to me was a better defensive fighter. He might have been a better offensive fighter in his days when he was fighting guys like um, Reggie Johnson or even guys like, even though he was losing rounds to the man Michael Nunn, you know what I mean? He was a better offensive fighter at those times than a defensive fighter, in my opinion. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So this is round 5. You see it on your screen right here. You know what I mean? This was a round where James Toney was landing flush right hands. James Toney misses a lot of punches. Reggie Johnson's head movement off the ropes. I'm sure you just saw the sequence right there. You see how Reggie Johnson has not running. You know what I'm saying? He's in front of his opponent. He's waiting for his opponent to miss shots, jabbing, jabbing, and he's not staying right in front of him. He's using a lot of lateral movement. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? Side by side, stepping to his right or stepping to his left. You know what I'm saying? And then countering. You know what I mean? So that's round five. But um, I'm in round 10 as far as going round by round. You know, round 10, James Tony's applying pressure on Reggie movement, but not landing much. You know what I mean? And you know, James Toney just didn't have much punch variety in that particular round. Round 11, Reggie Johnson's landing clean, effective shots, especially on the move. James, as you see right here in this round, you know, James Toney's applying pressure. He's throwing shots, but not with a sense of urgency, you know what I mean? Because this fight is basically in the balance going into round 11, you know what I mean? You know, Reggie's picking his spots and he's picking his shots. You know what I'm saying? Round 12, you know, James Toney lands a left uppercut on the inside and a left the man Reggie Johnson and sorry, James Toney's left eye's cut from a headbutt. You know what I mean? You checking it's bleeding profusely. You know, James Toney's the aggressor. You know what I'm saying in that particular round. In round in round 12, James Toney definitely is the aggressor. You know what I'm saying? But it's gonna be tough for him to win some rounds, especially with the man James Toney. I'm sorry, Reggie Johnson's evasiveness. You know what I mean? So yeah, you know, James, like I said, James Toney's the aggressor, and he's closing the distance. You know what I mean? Reggie Johnson's clinching, you know, but he's not really engaging much. You know what I mean? He's basically trying to keep it safe. You know what I mean? And James Toney catches Reggie on the chin with a flush left hook. You know what I mean? It was a thing of beauty. You check it. So this particular fight, man, it's a close fight. You know what I mean? Nip and tuck rounds. You know, I gave Reggie Johnson the first four rounds, rounds one, two, three, and four, and round two was a 10-8 round. You know what I mean? I gave James Toney's round five, six, seven, and eight. Round nine I gave to Reggie Johnson. Round 10 to James Toney. Round 11 to Reggie Johnson. And round 12 went to James Toney. You know what I mean? Yeah, so this fight right here, like I said, for the IBF title, James Toney, 6 weeks. The man only took 6 weeks and got back into a high risk, low reward type of fight. You know what I mean? Didn't get paid as much in this particular fight like other paydays that he got in his career. You know what I mean? But especially around these times in the '90s, and this was a time when James Toney, you know, was on the pound for pound list after he beat Michael Nunn. You know, I've seen my James Toney as high as like number three around 1993. You know, even '94 before he got in the ring with the man Roy Jones, James Toney was on the pound for pound list, pound for pound supremacy. Back when pound for pound really meant something. I'm not saying it doesn't mean anything today, but with all the people's hidden agendas and stuff, anybody could say who's pound for pound these days. You know, so it doesn't hold a lot of merit like it did back when I used to look at the old magazines, you know what I mean? The old boxing magazines. KO, Ring TV, ETC, Boxing Illustrated. Now, 6 rounds apiece is how I had this particular fight. 6 rounds apiece, you know what I mean? I just gave y'all which rounds I gave to James Toney, ETC, and which rounds I gave to Reggie Johnson. You know what I mean? I had it 6 rounds apiece, but with that 6 rounds, that's the punch I was telling you right there where he got backed up into the ropes and he bounced off the ropes. You know, Reggie Johnson was a very underrated fighter for his era. You know what I mean? Two different weight class champion. You know what I mean? Beat Willie Guthrie at light heavyweight for WBA light heavyweight title that Darius Michalkowski had vacated. You know what I mean? And like I said, 6 rounds apiece. And I thought he won this fight because of the 10-8 knockdown in round two. You know what I mean? I had this fight 114 to 113, 6 rounds apiece, but the difference is the knockdown. Hence why this is a controversial decisions fight. You know what I mean? You know, Reggie Johnson didn't get the world title. James Toney won this fight. I'm not too sure what the scorecards were. Maybe I could look it up right quick. should have been prepared with that. Maybe let me tell you what the scorecards will be. One sec, keep but just a sense of how close this particular fight. I mean, I have it 114, 113. Let me tell you guys what the scorecards was. Excuse me one sec. All kind of login and stuff. My internet right now. My internet want to freeze up. Uh, 115. So split decision victory for me. I personally had Reggie Johnson winning this fight. My all-time favorite fighters. One of the few fighters I remember as a little kid, the big dark-skinned guy with the bald head who talks a lot of ish, you know what I mean? And was a great fighter to me, his defensive skill set. But I thought he lost this fight. B. Marsh, thoughts and comments. Let me know how you guys scored this fight, and let me know who you guys had winning this particular fight. I had it for Reggie Johnson, 114, 113, 6 rounds apiece. But round two knockdown, that sweeping, looping left hook, put the man James Toney on the canvas, and that's the difference on my card. B. Marsh Boxing, I'm gone. Peace.